Hello, friends. Welcome to Time Out with Noelle Janae, a bi-weekly Christian lifestyle podcast that focuses on being a college student, the Bible, and navigating being an adult, which is very hard. I am your host, Noelle Janae, and thank you so much for timing out with me. Here is what you can expect on today's podcast. I'm crazy, and that kind of like ties into it, and so that's kind of like my like little backstory with all this stuff. But the actual beginning starts in 2019, when my grandfather on my dad's side, my peepaw, passed away. Hello, friends, and welcome to this episode of Time Out with Noelle Janae. Today, I'm going to be discussing something a little serious, something that I've been dealing with, something that I've written about on my blog for a couple of times, and something that I want to bring to the podcast now, because a few years ago, I would have never thought that I would be where I am. I never thought I would be doing a podcast. Never would have thought that I've experienced the things that I've experienced, the good and the very bad. So I just want to talk to you guys about one of those kind of bad experiences and how I'm dealing with it. And of course, y'all saw the title of the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about grief. I've experienced a lot of grief in the past couple of years, and just, it's been hard. So I want to kind of take you guys on my grief journey, and I'm still on that journey. I'm still trying to cope, I guess, just with everything that's happened over the past couple of years. So, yeah, my grief journey. So, before this, some, like, little backstory. I haven't really experienced a family death that was, like, super, like, significant. Not saying that every death isn't significant, just one that didn't impact me, like, from my immediate family. My great-grandfather on my grandmother's side passed away my freshman year of high school. I have a dead brother on my dad's side, my half-brother. He was stillborn. My cousin Andrea passed away when she was 2, I think, 1 or 2, and we would have been the closest in age. We were like 9 months apart or something, and they always told me that like we were like destined to be best friends. And I can do this, like, an episode on the more spiritual aspect of this, because I've had dreams of her and stuff, and just kind of like spiritual gifts or whatever. So if y'all want to hear that episode, about me and my experiences with the supernatural, then. Also, if you hear stuff rubbing back and forth, I talk with my hands a lot, so I'm like rubbing my hands and I'm fidgeting, so sorry. So that's kind of like my backstory with grief, and kind of death. In more middle school and early high school, my mind was literally the quote, "I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory," from Hamilton. And I struggled with depression and anxiety really badly, and a lot of things happened to me during that time, and that really like worsened my depression and my anxiety and stuff. There was a point in time where I literally thought I was going crazy, and that kind of like ties into it. And so that's kind of like my like little backstory with all this stuff. But the actual beginning starts in 2019, when my grandfather on my dad's side, my peepaw, passed away. And there was some like, they were minor. They're minor. Well, they're actually not minor. Some like major things that had happened in the past dealing with him being in the hospital and being super sick and on dealing with, like, family and just stuff that happened that really negatively affected me, that kind of stemmed from him being really sick. Not anything with my mom or anything, but just different family members. And that all kind of, like, came from him being in the hospital and stuff. So him being sick already, like, wasn't really, like, good for me to think about, because just all of that kind of feelings and experiences that came with that just I didn't like it. But he got really sick, and they put him on hospice care. This was summer of 2019. And I go to summer camp in June. I get back like a day later, and my mom, is telling me on the way home, like, hey, this is stuff that happened with Peepaw while you were gone. I was only gone a week, and, like, so much had happened in that week. And, of course, I didn't have any signal at the campground I was at, so I had no idea what was going on. And so I get told all this stuff, and then, like, a few days later, they put him in. He had already been put into a hospice care facility, just to take some pressure off my mom and my grandmother, because my granny was his, primary caretaker, and he was running her ragged, like, seriously. He was, at the time, 76, I think, and she was she had just turned 80, I think, or she had turned 80, or she was she had turned about to, or she had turned 80. I don't really remember, but I remember going down there a few days later after I'd gotten back, and they had called the family in, and I remember just sitting there, and he was basically, like, unconscious, super pale. You could tell he was gonna go at any minute. And, my little grandmother, she had gone to her hair appointment because she wanted to make sure she looked good, for him, to make sure she looked her best, to see him. And, she's in this routine, and it really, messes, like, with her mind and stuff when she gets out of that routine. And so she's, like, super old-fashioned, and she's adorable, and I love her. So we're there, and my mom takes his hand, and she goes, Dad, even though it was her ex-father-in-law, they basically adopted her as one of their, like, own kids. She says, Dad, you never let me talk to you about Jesus. Now, religion was something we never touched on in their house. He was a super private person. He was one of, like, 12 siblings, and I didn't know he had any siblings until a few years back. And so he didn't like talking about them. Super country, didn't like, talking about them and stuff. Didn't like talking about religion. She said, Dad, you never let me talk to you about Jesus, but now you don't have a choice. And she takes his hand. She goes, Jesus loves you. He died for you. Like, you can accept him into your heart. It's not too late to do that, and he will save you. And she asked him, she said, Dad, did you accept Jesus into your heart? And the last, like, movement thing he ever did was he squeezed her hand. And that just gave us assurance to know that, Jesus got him. He's up in heaven, probably cooking some lasagna or whatever. Has his own little restaurant in heaven. And I had to leave to go pick up Granny because she wasn't driving anymore because she was, of a certain age. And she couldn't see the road. So I went to go pick her up, and on the way I got a speeding ticket. That's another story for another time about how mad I am and how petty I am with the Goodlettsville Police Department for giving me a ticket that day. But it's okay. It's okay. Everything's okay. So then we get back. I go pick her up. Takes me about an hour and a half to go get her and take her to the hospice center. And Peepaw was literally waiting for her to get back, for her to go see him. And so, not even an hour, not even like 30 minutes had passed when we had gone there to when he passed away. And that was a hard day. I remember just like not really like processing it. I cried, but like it didn't really hit me. So we found out a few minutes later that my brother and my sister, my half-brother and sister, their grandmother on their mom's side was in the same hospice center 2 halls down, and Peepaw and their grandmother passed within like 20 minutes of each other. So my brother was there with them when she passed. And so we like met up in one of the hallways and we just held each other and we cried because they had just lost a grandparent and we had just lost our grandfather. So it was, it was a difficult day, but it was a day that my mom and I could just love on their family. And we, my mom prayed for them. We walked both of them out to the funeral carrier vehicle things. And that was a hard day. That was a very hard day. And so right after he had died, he died in June, and then I started college in August. And so throughout that whole summer, I was really distracted by all this school stuff, so I didn't really have the opportunity to kind of like grieve the way I needed to. But now that I'm looking back, I did grieve, just not in ways that people thought was the right way to grieve, which, let me tell you, there is no right way to grieve. You grieve however you need to, and if people can't accept that, then they're not there for your well-being. Because the way I grieved was, I would think about it, and then I would like, hey, just remember he's in heaven, blah, 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 you're good. And I just had that, like, assurance, and I was okay, because I know where he is now. And so that was my assurance. And people asked me, they were like, how are you, like, okay? Like, your grandfather just died. I'm like, because Jesus has him in heaven. Like, I know, I'm gonna see him again. So that was, like, my assurance. And then after that, I do my freshman year of school. First semester is okay. Second semester, COVID happens. And so we go into quarantine, and then one after another, I start hearing people dying, people that my family's friends with, people that I'm friends with, people who, I didn't really know, but they were, like, in my, like, church denomination. They were friends with, like, my papa on my mom's side and my granny on my mom's side and all this stuff. And so, I grieved, but it wasn't as personal to me. I mean, a couple of them were really personal, but not a lot of them were. But, I mean, I grieved on behalf of, like, the people, on behalf of their family, on behalf of their friends. And I really had to have that compassion in my heart to say, like, hey, this family's going through something that I just experienced, kind of. It's not the same, but it's similar. And so I really, I was praying. I was like, God, comfort these families, give them a peace that passes all understanding and all that stuff. And then sophomore year begins. We're doing, hybrid. I'm on campus. End of first semester, I had gone through a very bad, I went through a really bad situation, and I had to move out. of my room into another room. And I'm sitting in my room. I'm like unpacking stuff. And it's literally the day. No, finals had just ended. I'm in a room in a dorm that I've never been in technically. Because I was in the other dorm. Like there's two dorms like together. But I'd been in one section in the other dorm and not this one. And anyway. And then all of a sudden I get a text from my director. From our president from our director via our president in our group me. He goes, "Hey, Mama G wants us to get in the Zoom call." I'm like, okay. Get on the Zoom call. One of the members of our choir had died in a car accident that day. And I was like, what? Like, I was in such I did not believe them, because I was like, Naj is like a year or two older than me, and he's gone? Like, the dude that I had just sang with, like, 3 days ago, or like a week ago, is dead? Like, that was the last time I was ever gonna see him? Like, what? And so, he had died in a car wreck that day, and we just when we didn't know what to do. This was our like big brother. This was our brother, and he had so much life in front of him. He was making music. He was like a semester and a half or something away from graduation. Like, he was so close to the finish line of getting that degree. And so, he passed. The next day, we had, like, a little, like, get-together to grieve and to just hold each other close. And oh my gosh, I want to thank Lee and all the professors and all the faculty and the administrators and the advisors and the president, Dr. Walker. Like, thank you guys for, like, being there for us, for our choir, while this was going on, and just, like, being a rock to us, because, Jesus is the solid rock, but we need people to lean on in the flesh, and God puts those people in our lives to help us along. And then, like, not even a month or two later, I'm in Virginia with my mom, and I get an email from our president via his secretary that another student of Lee passed away. Jabe. I didn't know Jabe personally, but I knew friends who were friends with him. And I was like, what? Like, this kid is younger than me. He was a year younger than me, I think. And he's dead? Like, what? Like, 2 Lee students, one that I knew and another one that I didn't, died? Like, what? It was mind-boggling to me. And so the Lee community really came together. And so that happened. Those events happened. And I was dealing with them. And then my sophomore year happens. And my first semester was meh. And then, all that Naj stuff, I think I just said the wrong year. All that Naj stuff happened my sophomore year. So my freshman year I finished. And then, the Naj stuff happened my sophomore year. Let me correct myself. My brain is, like, non-functional right now. So, freshman year, COVID happened, mourning and stuff. Sophomore year, situation happened at the end. I'll have to go back and listen to this to see if I actually got it right, because I don't know. So, sophomore year happened. Sophomore first semester happens, and then Naj and Jay passed away. Jabe passed away. And then second semester was, I started off great. ready to, get a good grade. And then I go home for spring break. And y'all, when I tell you this was the worst week of my life. Okay, so between all of this, that semester, my mom was taking care of my grandmother, my granny, on my dad's side, Peepaw's wife. And before I'd gone home, she had been falling a lot. Her brain was she wasn't as sharp as she used to be. And Mom was concerned, and we had gone to her doctor's appointments and all that stuff. I went home. The day I got home, I had lunch with my brother and my sister-in-law, what we call her them sister-in-laws, and my mom. Then, that next day, she had fallen twice. We took her to the hospital, to the ER, because her doctor had already wanted her to go get a COVID test, and a full body examination. My mom and I take her to the ER. Mom's the only one allowed to go in because, COVID restrictions and everything. And then she falls in the ER. I'm getting, updates. My brother and I are getting updates and stuff while this is happening. Falls in the hospital. They go get a scan of her brain because they thought she had fallen on her head, and that's not good. She had a massive brain tumor that they found. And where it was hitting in the brain. There's these two, little, sacs in the middle of the brain that flush out toxins but also feed the brain. And on the left side of her brain, the giant tumor was pushing one of the sacs into the other, and that was causing her to fall. And they said it's cancerous. So she gets admitted into the ICU. My mom calls my brother and I because my sister wasn't in on this because she had kind of removed herself a little bit from the family, which I don't blame her, because I would have done the same thing. And then my dad and my biological father and my stepmom, my granny didn't want them to be in any of the decision making, because my mom was her primary caretaker. So it was really just up to my mom, and my brother had also been taking care of Granny a little bit in the past few years and doing things for her. So it's my mom, my brother, and I on a call, and my mom goes, they have two options. They gave me two options. We can either put her in a hospice center where she'll be comfortable for the, rest of her days, however long she has, or they can do a surgery to get the brain tumor out, but the recovery is long, and she may not even survive the surgery, and she may be a vegetable for the rest of her life. And so we had all agreed to put her in a hospice center, and so she got put in the hospice center on a Wednesday, and she died a week after on a Wednesday. So my granny Pat passed away in April. And I was honestly, God, I know I can't control when people die, but this is a super inconvenient time, which I hate saying that was my mindset, but I have to be, if I'm being honest, that was how because, I had finals coming up, a couple weeks after. I had, my UDAE, which is my voice final, which is, a big deal. I had all this stuff happening at school, and then, my grandmother passed away, and I was like, what? Okay. But in the days up to her death, when she was, still a little coherent, she was, talking and stuff, my mom talked to her about Jesus, and she was like, well, I don't know. Well, the day before she passed, they had called the family in, and she was just making these, like, grunting, gurgling sounds. And so my mom asked her, do you accept Jesus into your heart? And she said, uh-huh. So both of my grandparents on my dad's side accepted Jesus into their heart. And they both, passed away. And I just, like, I'm sad, but I'm also joyful because I know where they are now. Granny's probably in her bedazzled mansion in the sky, with her, little dog or something. Just, living her best life, praising the Lord. And, they're not here on earth, but, I know where they are. I'll see them again. So that's, good, fun, and fresh. But I definitely underestimated how much it would affect me. Because she died on Wednesday, and I went back to school that next Monday. I had been approved to Zoom until the end of the semester, but I needed a routine because I was definitely floating a bit. Kind of didn't know where I was going in life. I was, like, questioning everything, and so I was talking to my mom before I had moved back home at the end of the semester. I was like, I shouldn't have come back so early, but the real reason that I did it, other than I needed a routine, but I was just so angry at my father and, that kind of situation. Anytime, because I was seeing them a lot more because, we started cleaning out her house and all this stuff, and I was just so angry. I was just a ball of fire. Which if I told y'all, all the things that happened to me in my life, I think y'all would understand and y'all would back me up on it. But I know, the Bible says don't let the sun go down on your anger, and I was letting the sun go down on my anger. And so in order for me to not get into that toxic headspace and for me not to want to, commit crimes, I had to leave. So, I definitely went back to school earlier than I needed to. So that's just kind of like my grief journey. Her funeral, we had a memorial service for her, and that was in May. Yep, it was the day before Mother's Day. And so she's been gone 2 months now, and it's still weird to think about sometimes. So yeah, that's like my grief journey and just some of the stories that I've experienced. But I wanted to read you guys some Bible verses to, kind of, if you're going through this grief journey, then, just for you to meditate on these. These are verses that have helped me in all of my, years, I guess, of dealing with this thing. So, Revelation 21:4, He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. This is comforting me because it gives me that, that expectation of when Jesus comes and takes us to heaven, that there will be no more pain, all of this stuff will just, disappear and we'll be Gucci. So, that's fun. Psalm 34:18, The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Matthew 5:4, Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. That one is definitely, yes. And this last one is one of my favorite verses for this. I've held it so close, and it's been told to me so many times. I really love it. 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 14. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind, who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. Pretty self-explanatory. So I wanted to end this episode with a little, mental health update, and, just wanting to remind you guys that we do not grieve as those with no hope, as 1 Thessalonians just told us. And for you to take assurance in that, if you're dealing, if you're going through this, and that there are, resources out there if you need help to get help. Like, for me, I'm gonna finally, hopefully, this upcoming year, I'm finally gonna go see a counselor, because I need it, and I need to talk through things, I need to work through things that have happened, that I've, the emotional trauma that I've experienced, that I haven't dealt with, that, my grandmother dying really kind of, unveiled in me that I hadn't dealt with it. So I'm going to go see a counselor finally. And I just wanted to, there are resources. There are, things that you can do. Self-care is something that I'm very neglectful about. But, it's good for you. We need to take care of these temples, our bodies that we're in, to be pleasing to the Lord. And he doesn't want us to waste away into nothing, because that would literally be terrible. And I'm doing better. I still have my moments where I'm like, what is life? Why am I here? Why, basically, or what am I? So I do have my moments, but, if you've known me for a significant amount of time, that those are just things that I deal with, and I'm okay with that, and the Lord's really helped me. So, be blessed and highly flavored, friends, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day, a fantastic week, a fantastic life, and I love you. Bye-bye. What is up, people? It is time for a new segment, a new edition of Songs of the BiWeek. If you don't know what Songs of the BiWeek is, then let me explain to you it a little bit. So Songs of the BiWeek is a little segment we do here on Ye Old Podcast, where I recommend you guys a couple of song suggestions, some bops that I have been listening to for the past couple of weeks. So, the songs of the BiWeek this episode, I should say, are What's Wrong by Half Alive and Walk on the Water from The Chosen. So, What's Wrong is one of the newest singles from Half Alive. If you didn't know, I'm a huge Half Alive fan. Love them the most. Great guys. And this is just one of their newest singles. They haven't released music. New music, not like redone music. Because like they did their album and then they did Inflorescence, which is a few songs from their album that are with an orchestra and rearranged. And so this is like brand new music. And it is so good. They just performed it on Jimmy Kimmel, I think. And the performance was so good. And it's just one of my favorite songs right now. And I highly recommend it because it's a bop and it's great for the summer. Then Walk on the Water is the theme song from the show The Chosen. Now you've heard me hint to this show a lot. And I will be doing an episode, either the next episode or the episode after that. I will be doing a full dedicated episode on The Chosen and my love for it and ranting about it. But this, this intro, this theme is just so good. It's kind of like a rearranged version, or like, because it has some like of the lyrics from Wade in the Water, but it's just, oh my gosh, it is so good. And so I highly recommend it. And I also highly recommend the TV show. So those are my songs of the bye week. If you want to tell me what your favorite songs are and any songs that you want me to listen to, then hit me up on the podcast Instagram at TimeNoelPod, or hit me up on my personal Instagram at Noel_Janae. All links will be in the show notes. And just let me know. And you never know, your suggestion could be in a future episode, a future edition of Songs of the Bye Week. Have a great week, friends. Thank you guys so much for timing out with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe or follow to the podcast wherever you listen on. And if you would like, please share it with your friends and family so they can also listen and y'all can talk about it and they can just connect with everything. And if you would like, please follow us on the Instagram at TimeNoelPod. And if you would like to listen to the songs that I mentioned in Songs of the Bye Week, once again, the links for the Apple Music and Spotify playlists are in the show notes. And don't forget to be love like Jesus, and don't forget to time out for a little bit this week. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye!